Hi, this is Starkey Sowers. Welcome again to another Plus Program training series. Today's topic, protein, and this is part two. So, what we're going to do is give you a little caption about what we did in part one in case you missed it, give you a little maybe background and some history of what was going on. So, right out of the bat, when we look at proteins, one thing that we know is this is the word protein is actually premier importance. It's absolutely necessary. Our bodies have to function with protein. Couple different thoughts about protein is this: it's the structural components of our body. So when we think of structural components, think of bones, we think of muscle, we think of tendons, we think of ligaments, think of the outside exteriors such as skin, hair, and nails. All of that is protein. And our bodies absolutely have to have proteins on a regular basis. In fact, how much protein do we need? Roughly about 60 grams a day. And one thing that happens with a lot of individuals that are senior citizens, we notice that there's a loss of muscle mass as we get older, up to 27, maybe 30%, as opposed to the age of 18 up to 65. There's a large amount of muscle tissue that is lost. Protein helps to maintain that, especially with a regular exercise and diet program that goes along with it. All right. So, with that said, one of the thoughts also is, well, where do I get protein? So, looking once again, we see some neat things about proteins. There's animal sources and there's vegetable sources. The animal sources are meats, chickens, fish, as well as turkey and tuna and all the other different things that are there, including eggs and milk. And then the vegetable sources are going to be legumes or nuts, seeds, as well as whole grains and some vegetables to kind of round out a real quick list. And we're going to talk a little bit more detail about that type of protein as well too, because one thing that we have a tendency to think about is this: we think of animal versus vegetable protein. There's a lot of thoughts that go in between there. So with that kind of an idea, one of the things we want to do is maybe expand that whole horizon on what's there. So before we get too far, though, one of the things I want to do is look at this. When it comes to proteins, a lot of people say, well, don't I get enough of it? One thing we know for sure is the average American diet has roughly enough protein in it. But who should be concerned about getting adequate amounts of proteins? Well, a couple different things. Individuals that are dieting, number one, skipping meals. If you're an individual that skips meals, chances are you might not be getting enough protein. Individuals that lack energy or maybe have blood sugar problems. The other thing is people that are working out on a regular basis, actually the protein requirement goes up. So what you might want to do is just check the list and see maybe where you're at. So one of the things that we have a tendency to do is kind of look at this whole list, and you might be starting to think this: well, wait a minute, what is the average needs or what is the average daily requirements of protein? Well, we said it was 60 or maybe 80. So how does that look when it comes to a diet? Well, what's interesting is we kind of put up a diet here for us. So looking at this diet, here's just like maybe an average American diet. So for breakfast, maybe eggs and toast, or maybe you've got oatmeal with a glass of milk. Well, that would definitely give you some protein there right out of the gate. So for lunch, I put up a salad with turkey on it. And that's not a lot of substance. Some people have a tendency to eat salads for lunch. So I just thought I'd put that up there. Salad with turkey, a handful of turkey would definitely give you adequate amount of protein for the lunch. So well, then what about dinner? So one of my favorite things is like maybe chicken and vegetables. Another thing that I like is maybe Mexican food every now and then. So believe it or not, rice and peas or rice and beans makes a complete protein along with some vegetables, or maybe like a vegetable lasagna with some cheeses. So a couple snack ideas, almonds. Another thing would be like maybe peanut butter with celery, ultimately giving you protein that you would need throughout the day. So you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of the foods that I'm already eating. And ultimately, yeah, that sounds good. Some of the other individuals might be thinking, well, I'm not maybe getting enough of those proteins. And maybe I'm not getting enough protein in my system. So we'll talk a little bit details later on maybe how you can slip a little bit more in. But before we do that, one thing I want to do is I want to get into the quality of protein. So there's different types of quality of protein. So the quality of protein becomes critical in a couple different situations. Number one, we talked about the different sources. We talked about vegetables and we talked about animal sources. What we know is this is there is what is known as essential amino acids that are the background or the backbone, so to speak, of building protein substances up. And what's interesting is each protein food has a different array or different variety of amino acids. We do know this, that there are 8 essential amino acids that the body has to have on a regular basis. Those 8 essential amino acids are indeed that they are essential. The body does not function well without them. That's why it's so critical that you get protein in on a regular basis. So here's what we do know is that the animal types of proteins, as we discussed earlier, have a complete array of all 8 essential amino acids. What's unique though is vegetable proteins oftentimes will lack one or more of those 8 essential amino acids. So, what happens is you actually have to combine a couple different things together. So, for instance, if we take rice and we take peas, that combination of both of those proteins together produces a complementary or a complete protein, making that vegetable protein actually a great protein source. You don't have to eat it in one meal, you can space it throughout the day, and ultimately you'll get complete proteins by combining different types of vegetable sources of protein. All right, so don't forget that complementary proteins kind of added together, especially if you're vegan, vegetarian, you want to make sure that you're getting adequate, still 60 grams a day, but making different sources maybe an object of the lesson here. All right, so finally, one of the things I always think about is a protein supplement. Who needs a protein supplement? I like using a protein supplement. A lot of times it's convenience. So I'm on my way, taking off, just finished working out. I want some protein in my body, make a protein drink, a piece of toast. I'm up and running, away we go. There's different sources of protein. You can get milk protein, such as casein, as well as whey protein. You also can get egg whites. You can get vegetable sources. What's going on today with the vegetable proteins is really neat. MRM, for instance, is producing a combination of vegetable proteins. So it's got amaranth, it's also got chia seed, a couple of different things added together, making up a complete protein. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. Typical sources of proteins are going to be either liquids or powders. Powders probably making about 90% of what we sell on the shelves. Real quick and easy, can fit it into foods or make it into a drink, and you're up and running. You're going to get anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of protein per serving, making it real convenient and easy for you to get protein on a regular basis. This is Starkey Sowers. Thanks for watching another Plus Program training series.